Okay, good morning, everyone. And today is Tuesday, the 17th day of Elul, which means tonight is Chai Elul, the 18th day of Elul, the big Yom Tov, the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. So tonight we're going to have the Fabringen in the Chabad house. We're going to have the class at 8 o'clock. It's going to be for the first time. The class is going to be a hybrid in Zoom and in person, 8 o'clock, the Torah studies, and then 9 o'clock we'll have the Fabringen. So let's begin today again with the tzedakah, Deila tzedakah, shemekareves esagyeula. You have in the house, you should put in a coin, wherever you listen to the video, put in a coin for tzedakah. And today's extra chapters in Tehillim, the 3 chapters of Elul, is chapter 49, 50, 51. So, and we continue in Igeret הקודש, in the letter 15 of Igeret הקודש. And this letter, the Alter Rebbe gives us an explanation about the 7 emotive attributes. He covers all the 10 emotive attributes, but yesterday we focused on before he speaks about all the 10 attributes, meaning the intellectual and the emotive attributes. Yesterday we covered the emotive attributes. We explained that there is the chesed, the gevura, the attributes of giving, the attributes of restricting. And then you have a combination of both, which is tiferes, which is also rachamim. That means rachamim is compassion. Compassion comes when you see someone who doesn't deserve, but yet the compassion makes you give even to those who don't deserve it. So this is the chesed. The first 3 is the chesed, gevura, the chesed, the giving, gevura, the restricting, and tiferes, which she calls it the beauty, which is because it's a combination of both. And then they have the netzach hod and yesod. Netzach hod is when it comes to actually giving. Well, you already decided you want to give, but in order to actually give, you have to go through again the actual emotions, to not just to theoretically that you want to give. It's like, for example, when you sometimes people make a New Year's resolution, and they really, really are excited, inspired. They want to make something, do something, but after a while, the inspiration is gone, and the resolution doesn't last very long. This is when we need the netzach and the hod. Netzach and the hod is the two sides that helps the person to actually give, to bring it into action, to actually that the desire shouldn't be just a theoretical one, should be an actual one. And then you have the actual giving, you have the passion of giving and the giving itself. The yesod is the passion of giving. And the malchus is the actual giving itself. So we used yesterday an example of a father teaches a child. So when you teach the child, when you have the desire to give, that does 2 things. Number 1, it makes the father that his desire creates more intellect in the giving, that he's able to give more. He's able to explain better when he has a desire. It's like, and the second thing is the recipient. The recipient, when you have a desire to give, the recipient is able to receive better. And this is something I'm sure you can think of examples of teachers that sometimes you have a teacher that is very, very smart, but whatever he or she teaches, sometimes flies over your head. Not because you can't understand it, but because the way they gave it, maybe in a very dry way, giving over a lecture. But then you have a teacher, an excited teacher, person that really wants to, the teacher wants you to get what they're telling you. It's not only because the teacher is more exciting, it is also because the teacher wants to give. When you see the teacher is interested in you, that has a deeper effect, a stronger effect in the recipient. So this is the Yesod. Yesod, he said, is like the reproductive organs, is also the concept of the Yesod. Because this represents the desire, the connection, the desire to connect. So when you have a desire to connect, then the connection is a much better, much stronger one. Now the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that in the emotive characters, the emotive attributes, has the external part of it and has the internal part of it. So you have basically everything what you do or you don't do is triggered by a certain emotion. And in general, says the Alter Rebbe, there is the attribute of giving is triggered by what? It's triggered by the emotion of love. When you have the love inside you, when you love something, you love someone, then that triggers the attribute of giving. And the same thing is also the attribute of not giving is triggered by the attribute of fear. This is what Alter Rebbe goes on to explain now. So let's see inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'hine, midos elu, ein b'chinas chitzonius shebenefesh." Now these emotive attributes, those involved in imparting enlightenment and the like, are the external aspects of the soul. These are the external aspects. Within them are vested the inner attributes, which brings about the external attributes involved in the actual imparting of knowledge. So when you love someone, you're going to give, whether it's knowledge, whether it's giving something to your child. Meaning the faculties of love and awe and so on. I know, it says, this may be compared to the case of a father who bestows enlightenment upon his son because of his love for him. So the internal aspect of the attribute involved is love. And its external aspect is kindness. So the love is like the engine that gets the kindness going. And the same thing is also in the other way around. And he withholds his influence because of his dread and fear lest his son come to some downfall, heaven forfend. Your son is asking you for an expensive car. Let's say you can afford it, but you don't want to give it to him. You're afraid. What's going to be? What is it going to lead to for him to do? Maybe he's going to do some stupid things with this. Just an example, but you can think of different examples that when you have, but the reason what leads a person not to give is the dread, the fear, afraid of what that's going to lead to. So this is the engine that gets the external emotions working. And then the Alter Rebbe goes to the intellectual faculties. The intellectual faculties are really the source and the root to all of these emotive attributes. Both the internal and external emotive attributes are rooted in the intellect. And he's going to explain. The source and root of these internal and external emotive attributes. Apnimiyos v'achitzoniyos, the internal and the external attributes. What is the source? What is the root? Chochma, bina, das, shebenafshe. This is the Chabad, Chachma, Bina, Das, intellectual faculties. Chachma is the wisdom, we call the spark of knowledge. Bina is the ability of understanding. And Das is knowledge, which means connecting. It is a deeper understanding that you connect to it. Because a person's emotive traits are in proportion to his intellect. And that's something that we see on a daily basis. What does a child get excited from? Small things. An adult will not get excited from the small things. The greater your understanding, the greater your comprehension, the deeper your knowledge is, the greater your emotions are. And it says, Kanire bechush, and this is empirically evident. She'akotam, she'achachma bina dashaloi, emchines katmos, kach kol midoisav emidvorim ktani erech. The child, for example, whose chachma bina das, his intellectual faculties, are in a state of pettiness, so all his emotive traits too relate to insignificant things. And as he matures in age and understanding, his emotive traits correspondingly aspire to worthier goals. That's something we see on a daily basis. Not only children, but also adults. It says, Lefi sichlo yehul al ish. The adults too, it says, the verse says, according to his intelligence, is a man praised. Now, the word ish, which means man, in Hebrew, there's different terms for man. There's 4 terms. You have Adam, Ish, Gever, and Enosh. Adam represents more the intellectual part of the person. Ish is the more the emotive part of the person. Gever is the action. Enosh is the lowest, I believe. In any case, here, when we're talking about Ish, which means talking about the emotive part of a person, then why does it say that according to intelligence, a man is praised? Ish should be praised according to his emotions. Why does it say according to intelligence? So this is what the Alter Rebbe explains, because the emotions are based on your intelligence. The greater you are, the bigger you are, you'll get excited of more important things, of worthier goals. That's what Alter Rebbe says. For the extent of his love and kindness corresponds to the extent of his wisdom. As many times the Rebbe would talk to people who in the community, sometimes there is disagreements between different organizations, and the Rebbe was very not happy with this. Why can't they get along? Sometimes, a person with a greater wisdom, a deeper understanding, doesn't understand that there's pettiness. People fight over small things. So here it says that the deeper you are, the greater your intelligence is, that affects your emotions. Says the Alter Rebbe, most important to the development of the spiritual emotions is one's da'at. As we said, what is the da'at? The da'at is the connecting, the intellectual connection. When you understand something so deeply that you connect to it, you can almost feel it, which derives from one's chachma and bina. Kanire bechush, and this is readily observable. Ki lefi shinui deyas b'nei adam zanizeh, kachu shinui midoiseim. For the differences between the emotive traits of various people corresponds to the differences in their respective degree of da'as. So this is where the Alter Rebbe basically covered the understanding of the 10 faculties, the 10 attributes. And in tomorrow's lesson, the Alter Rebbe is going to take it to the spiritual level. Because this is true, what we just discussed is true in any person in the literal meaning of the emotions, the intellect, in the simple cases. But it goes, Alter Rebbe was going to take it to the next level, a level how this is seen and understood in the spiritual neshama. So this is the end of today's shir. Thank you so much for joining. Mirz Hashem. We shall continue tomorrow. Bezat Hashem.